What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sports Talk with Hawk. And free agency is basically wound down. We are now into the time frame where you watch what teams do that kind of tips off how they're going to be drafting. So by the time that this podcast has been recorded, the big news this week was that Stephon Diggs was traded from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans. Now, that trade not only is heavily favored into the Texans' side of, well, everything. Really, it's a Texans trade. Very much is a Texans trade. They get Stephon Diggs. They get 2 late round picks. And they give up a future second round pick. That's what they do. That is what they do. The Texans absolutely won that. The Bills won for the fact they get a diva out of the fold. Josh Allen absolutely signed off on it. Stephon Diggs wore out his welcome. His production dipped terribly. And I think 1 year in Houston, and by 1 year, I mean 1 year. The Texans have already restructured his contract to be able to let him be a full-fledged free agent at the end of this year. He is getting paid $22.5 million. They moved his $13 million guarantee up to this year. And they set themselves up for 1 year with Stephon Diggs. And honestly, I love it. The way they're doing this, the way they've set themselves up, it makes so much sense. So today, what I'm going to do is we're going to go down and we're going to slice this down. If you guys have noticed, last couple of podcasts, the NASCAR, the one about the Vegas odds, and then the last one about what's new. Shorter podcasts, easier. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So we're going to break this down. We're going to break this down into four different podcasts, and we're going to actually do it division by division. So we're going to do the East today. So we're going to do the AFC East and the NFC East today. Look at who the team signed, the details of the contracts, if they're fully been disclosed yet, whatever it may be. That's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the East today, the North tomorrow, then the South, and then the West. So we're going to do 4 podcasts on the free agent signings for each team. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So the AFC East, starting with the Buffalo Bills. Now, the one signing on here that I know will not have any money next to it is going to be the ones they just made, where they signed La'el Collins, the offensive tackle. Now, that's actually huge. So they traded Stephon Diggs and then signed an offensive tackle. Why is this huge? It's big because it tips off what they're going to do in the draft. They're going receiver in the draft. The Buffalo Bills GM came out, was slightly cryptic, but slightly straightforward. The Bills, I believe, are going to trade up, potentially top 10, try to get to number 9 where the Bears are to see if they can get Dunze. Maybe the Jets, but doubt it. Potentially the Broncos. The Broncos have been interested in getting some more picks. They may be willing to trade back. But I believe they're going to trade between Between 9 and 13, I think, is where they're going to end up trying to trade up to. But, so, the free agent signings for the Buffalo Bills. Mitchell Trubisky signed a 2-year deal. Okay? It's a $5.25 million deal, but it has incentives that he can get to 8.45, and 2.7 million is guaranteed, but it's a 2-year deal. They also signed Mack Hollins, the free agent from Atlanta, into their wide receiver room. They signed Curtis Samuel to a 3-year, $30 million contract. Like I said, they just signed La'el Collins, the offensive tackle. They re-signed their big offensive tackle, Dion Dawkins, 3-year, $60.5 million extension. They signed David Edwards, one of their linemen, to a 2-year extension. They signed Will Clapp to a 1-year deal, the center. They signed AJ Epinesa to a 2-year deal that is worth up to $20 million. They signed Casey Toohill, defensive end. Austin Johnson signed a 1-year deal that is worth up to $4 million. Daquan Jones re-signed with the Bills on a 2-year deal for $16 million, and it has $10.5 million fully guaranteed. Deshaun Williams, another defensive tackle, signed a 1-year deal. Linebacker Nick Morrow signed a 1-year deal. Helped the linebacking core that was kind of decimated by what's happened recently. Then they signed 2 corners. They signed their own Taron Johnson to a 3-year, $31 million extension. He is basically the nickel corner. And then they signed Cam Lewis to a 2-year deal. Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp. They also signed Mike Edwards to a 1-year deal. And Taylor Rapp, they re-signed to a 3-year contract extension. So currently, really, I believe the Bills are going to go. I think if they can get, let's see, if they go wide receiver in the first round, they still have Shakir. They have Curtis Samuel. Mack Hollins is a wide receiver 4. He's the guy, if one of the other guys goes down with injury, he'll step in. James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. The cupboard isn't bare. Honestly, I think they still go offensive line, probably get another guard. Truthfully, I would love to see them draft Zach Zinter from Michigan. They may get a center as well. But then, honestly, I think this is going to be a defensive draft for the Buffalo Bills. I think this is going to be heavily defense with receiver, kind of sprinkled in. I think they make a move. They go after Adunze. I think he fits with Josh Allen really well. His hands, his route running ability, I think it fits Buffalo. And then I think they're able to kind of work from there. But I do think they go offensive line, defensive line with one of their picks. And then linebacker, I think they may draft 2, possibly 3. Junior Colson from Michigan, Barrett Cooper from Clemson, possibly in the 2nd round. There's a couple of different ways they could go with this. And I think they're going to go young. They're going to retool. This is a retooling year. Same thing the Rams did last year. They're going to take a dead cap hit. Von Miller's in the last year of his contract. It opens up, after the dead money and everything, it opens up $55 million, guys. $55 million in cap space. Think about this. What could a team who is in the top 8 teams in the NFL Dude, with $55 million in cap space, you got Josh Allen. You get this right, you've already got Curtis Samuel, you got James Cook, you got the weapons. If you need to be able to go out and get a more dominant offensive lineman, you can. If you need to go out and get a dominant pass rusher or two, as is the case with, as we'll see what the San Francisco 49ers did to replace Chase Young, you've got options. So honestly, I like what the Bills have done. They open up cap space, they give themselves a little bit of breathing room, and I think it is very, very important. All right, Miami Dolphins. This is going to be interesting. And here's why. You're going to notice where a majority of these signings are. All right, they re-signed Salvon Ahmed to a, I think that was a one-year deal. Raheem Mostert, they actually signed a 2-year contract, adding a deal to 2024. So it was technically a 1-year extension, but they redid the entire contract. It's worth up to $9.1 million. They re-signed Braxton Berrios. They re-signed River Cracraft. They signed free agent tight end Jody Fortson. Then this one is odd. I didn't understand why they made the signing when they did. They signed Jonnu Smith, who was with Atlanta last year. They signed Jonnu Smith to a 2-year, $10 million deal. I like Jonnu Smith. I liked him when he was in Tennessee. So I like Jonnu. But they need something more. I really feel like they need something more out of the tight end position, but we'll see. All right, offensive tackles. Jack Driscoll, 2-year deal, $10 million. 2-year, let's see. No, that was, that's the other guy. Jack Driscoll and Kendall Lamb, offensive tackles, signed. Then Aaron Brewer, the center, signed a 3-year contract worth up to $21 million. Robert Jones re-signed. Isaiah Wynn re-signed. So there is 5 offensive linemen. 5 offensive linemen. Then their quote-unquote splashy sign on the defensive side of the ball, they signed Shaq Barrett to a 1-year deal worth up to $9 million. They signed defensive tackles Neville Gallimore, Jonathan Harris, Benito Jones, and Deshaun Hand. Yeah, if you're wondering who those people are, that's kind of my point. They let Christian Wilkins walk. They let Jerome Baker walk. Don't have a clue why. They did. They signed Jordan Brooks to a 3-year, $30 million contract. Like that deal a little bit. I think it's a little high. 3-year, 27, 3-year, 25. I thought made a little bit more sense, but they got him. They signed the linebacker Anthony Walker to a 1-year deal. Then they got Kendall Fuller. This is going to be their secondary splash. They got Kendall Fuller on a 2-year, $16.5 million deal. Nick Needman re-signed. Jordan Poyer came over from the Bills on a 1-year deal. Siran Neal signed a 1-year deal. And then Jake Bailey re-signed with the team, the punter. Miami Dolphins. I thought you wanted to win. I'm sorry. You let Christian Wilkins walk. You let Jerome Baker walk. Xavier Howard's gone. Like, I'm sorry. Where's the energy going to come from on defense? This defense to me looks like you're going to be able to run them over. You're going to be able to run them over. The defense will be weak. It will not have a lot of punch. I don't think it's going to actually have the ability to be able to make the timely plays when you got to make them. I mean, it is going to be bad. This team will not be good. Defensively, I don't like this team at all. At all. So I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do with them. I just don't. All right, the team that is expected to be bad. This is the team that's expected to not do much. They are officially rebuilding, not like the last couple years where it's just sucked because Bill Belichick was actually now a bad head coach. Sorry, the greatest of all time outran him, decided to be hard-headed, and unfortunately that's what happens. One of the greatest head coaches of all time really hurt his legacy as far as what he could do. Being hard-headed hurts what you're known for, unfortunately. All right, Gerard Mayo, actual GM, actual scouting department. I'm excited to see, and this is coming from a Colts fan, but this is coming from a football fan. Guys, I'm excited to see the Patriots be a legitimate team again. You know what's so much fun about the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills, the Rams, 49ers, the Ravens? They're teams. I'm excited to have the New England Patriots be a team again. I really am. I really am. I used to watch the Patriots all the time. I remember the Patriot versus Packers Super Bowl. I remember Drew Bledsoe before he got run out of town by Tom Brady. It's it's just one of those things where it's a franchise that's been up and down, up and down. And I want to see the franchise be successful and be respected as a franchise. I really do, because right now it's definitely tarnished. I mean, they're the laughing stock at this, one of the laughing stocks right now. So this is their first off season without Bill Belichick, without an old cranky person that doesn't want to learn, sitting in the seat that shouldn't be in. And I like it. I like it. Listen to the moves listen to the moves that they have made. Holy crap, that was a tongue twister I put on myself. All right, so they signed Jacoby Brissett to a 1-year, $8 million deal. I love this. I wish the Colts would have got him. I wanted Brissett back so badly because I think AR is going to be hurt again. They signed quarterback Nathan Rourke. They traded away Mac Jones, and we'll see that when we get to the Jags in a couple podcasts. They signed Antonio Gibson, the former Washington running back, to a 3-year, $11.25 million deal. This is a great deal for them. And I mean great. They got a running back that can potentially be a 750 to 900 yard a year running back on a 3-year deal with only $5.5 million guaranteed, basically. 3-year deal. He'll be 30 years old after the deal is done, if I'm remembering correctly. That's big. That is huge. This is a good contract for the New England Patriots. I like that deal. All right, they signed Kendrick Bourne, re-signed him to a 3-year, $20 million deal that has incentives that go up to $33 million, and only holy cow, So it actually has listed out everything he's got. So it has $5.5 million in reception and receiving yard incentives, $4 million in incentives each of the 2 years after, and he gets a $850,000 per game roster bonus each year. Holy cow. Holy cow. All right, KJ Osborne signed a 3-year deal with the Patriots as well. I like this signing for whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Brissett or they draft one. This one's a big one. KJ Osborne, really good slot guy. I think this will work okay. Jalen Reagor re-signed on a 1-year deal. Hunter Henry. I said this in, I can't remember which podcast I said. I said it in the podcast when we were going through the potential free agents for each team, and I said they're going to have to sign Hunter Henry, and they may have to pay for him. I was right. They signed him to a 3-year deal worth $27 million, and that's a little expensive for Hunter Henry. But they also were able to sign Austin Hooper, who basically has fallen off of a cliff, but is not a bad tight end. I like the signing. The signing is really good for them. 2 tight end sets should be pretty solid there in New England. I like what they're building. I like what they got because they still got Stevenson. Now they got Gibson. Look for the running game to be a big part of what the New England Patriots do. They also signed 3 linemen. They signed Onwenu to a 3-year, $57 million deal. They signed Tyrone Wheatley Jr. They re-signed him. And then they signed Chukwuma Okafor. So basically three offensive tackles there. On the defensive side of the ball, they re-signed Anfernee Jennings on a 3-year, $12 million deal that has a max, get this, max deal of $24 million. So talk about a great outcome if he can make this work. 3-year deal, $12 million, but you can double it in 3 years. Good for him. Josh Uche signed a 1-year deal for $3 million, max value of $8 million. Armon Watts signed with the team. Christian Ellis, Sion Taikiti, never mind, screw it. The linebacker that came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. He signed a 2-year deal worth $6.5 million that can be worth up to $10 million. And then they got Duggar, which they signed in the transition tag, and they're going to pay him $13.8 million. I bet you they'll get a long-term deal done. Not really worried about that. Then they also signed Jalen Hawkins, the safety. All right, the Jets didn't do anything early. Then kind of picked it up. But this is going to be interesting. So they have Tyrod Taylor. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth up to $18 million. $18 million is pretty high for a team that has their quarterback. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. It is awful high. But it works. They signed Mike Williams, the often injured receiver, to a 1-year deal that's worth up to $15 million. He ain't going to make it. Sorry. They signed offensive guard John Simpson to a 2-year deal worth up to $18 million. They got Morgan Moses in a trade with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they get a 4th-round pick, and they gave up a 4th-round pick and 2 6th-round picks. So the Baltimore Ravens loaded up on picks by getting rid of Morgan Moses. Then they also, near the end, made an interesting signing. Tyron Smith, the former Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman, is going from Dallas to New York. Listen, this is one signing that I don't get. It's a 1-year deal worth up to $20 million. He won't make it if it's off the games played. It's not going to work. This is I know why they did it. It's a bad signing. It really is. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. He's going to be injured. I don't like him up there in the cold, but we'll see what happens. All right, defensive lineman, Leki Fotu signed, Javon Kinlaw signed. I like this. Saleh knows them. I like both of those signings. Edge rusher Hassan Reddick was acquired in a trade with the Eagles for a conditional 2026 third-round pick. 2026. Solomon Thomas re-signed with the team. Isaiah Oliver, the former Atlanta Falcon, signed with them. Greg Zuerlein re-signed on a 2-year deal. And then Thomas Morstead re-signed as well. So that is the AFC East. Now we're going to go to the NFC East. And we're going to start with the Dallas, what in the world are they doing Cowboys? And these are the 5 signings as of right now. The first one and only one for a long time. Trent Sieg. They re-signed him. Long snapper. Woohoo! Yes, I am mocking the Cowboys because Jerry Jones backed himself into a corner with this Dak Prescott contract and a lot of other deals that are now being made. He is showing why he doesn't deserve to be the GM of the Cowboys and really showing why Cowboys will not win a Super Bowl again. Sorry. Rico Dowdle, their young running back, re-signed on a 1-year deal. Chuma Adoga, offensive tackle, re-signed on a 1-year deal. Eric Kendricks, the linebacker, signed over from the Vikings. And then Jordan Lewis re-signed a 1-year deal. That's it. There you go, Cowboys fans. That's all you got. Sorry. I didn't have anything to do with it. All right, here we go. New York Football Giants. Drew Lock signed a 1-year, $5 million deal. Basically, all of it's guaranteed. Devin Singletary. This is the big one. They let Saquon Barkley walk. I'm split on if they should have or not, but they got Devin Singletary in return, so not bad. They signed Isaiah McKenzie from the Indianapolis Colts, but he was with the Bills before. Dable knows him. My guess is he's going to be the return man there in New York, and I think he's going to do very well. They signed offensive tackle Jermaine Illuminor to a 2-year deal, $14 million contract. Like that signing, they signed John Runyon, the offensive guard, as well, and Aaron Stinney. 2 very good offensive guard signings. And then they also signed center Austin Schlottman. So under the radar, kind of, but they need a lot of help still. They do. They need a lot of help still. A lot of guys. This Giants team is... the team has spots, and you're going to see one of them now. First of all, they acquired Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers, along with a 5th-round pick this year, in exchange for a 2nd round, a 5th round, and a 2025 conditional 5th round, which probably will end up being a 4th round. Then he signed a 5-year, $150 million deal with the team with $76 million fully guaranteed. So if you wanted to know who's their cornerstone on defense, it's Brian Burns. Now, here's the thing. They have a defensive tackle. They got Dexter Lawrence there. I like parts of the Giants, but they need a lot of pieces still. They re-signed Darnay Holmes, and then they signed Jalen Mills, the corner, as well. All right, Philadelphia Eagles signed Will Grier, quarterback, to a one-year deal. Then they also acquired Kenny Pickett from the Pittsburgh Steelers, along with a fourth-round pick in this year's draft, in exchange for a third and a seventh. So Pittsburgh gets another third and a seventh. They kind of need it. And Philadelphia now has the Pittsburgh kid. There we go. Saquon Barkley signed a 3-year, $37.75 million contract. Now, if he's healthy and he can still run, the verdict is still going to be out. Let's just be honest. If he's healthy and if he can run. I mean, come on, guys. Let's not start thinking that he's not who we've been seeing on the field for the last 4 years. Injuries are there. Issues are there. How bad they are, not really sure. It could work out great. It may work out to be really ugly. There's the reality. But if you're going to let DeAndre Swift walk, you better fill the gap with somebody who can do everything Swift can. And I think they hit the nail on the head with that one. All right, they signed 2 receivers to one-year deals, Paris Campbell and Devontae Parker. Then they signed Owekumbam, the tight end who was with the Tennessee Titans last year. Then they signed Landon Dickerson to a 4-year, $84 million deal, the offensive guard. They signed offensive guard Matt Hennessy as well. Then they re-signed Brandon Graham, the longtime defensive end. They signed Bryce Huff. This is a big signing for them. Big signing. They signed Bryce Huff to a 3-year, $51 million contract. Now, Fletcher Cox retired. Jason Kelce retired. Brandon Graham decided to come back. I'm not really sure which way or what else they're going to try to do with the draft. People think they're still set up okay. Defensively, if Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, Jordan Davis can all be dominant at the same time, you're talking about a defensive line that nobody wants to face. So I will give you that. They signed 4 linebackers. Devin White, they signed to a 1-year deal. They signed Zach Bond to a 1-year deal, Oren Burks, and Julian Okwara to a 1-year deal as well. Then they signed 2 corners, Tyler Hall, Avonte Maddox. They signed safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson to a 3-year, $33 million deal. They re-signed Jake Elliott to a big contract. The kicker did a great job for them, and they know you need one. David Akers for a long, long time. Once you get a good kicker, stick with him. Jake Elliott gets a big long-term, gets a big 4-year deal, so congratulations to him. Well done. They also re-signed they signed Brandon Mann, their punter, to a 1-year extension as well. And then they signed their long snapper, Rick Lovato. All right, now to the team that I think has flat out won free agency without even a doubt. my gosh. This team has gotten everything they need. I think they're going to trade back up into the first round after their pick they already have. I love how they built this team, and here we go. The Washington Commanders signed free agent Jeff Driscoll. He's a third quarterback. Marcus Mariota, 1-year deal, like the signing. Austin Eckler to go alongside Brian Robinson on a 2-year deal worth up to $11 million. That's actually cheap for him. That's worth up to. So it's a really cheap, team-friendly contract. Loved it. They signed Jamison Crowder. They lost Curtis Samuel. They signed Jamison Crowder. They signed Olamide Zaccheaus. They signed tight end Zach Ertz. To me, that is a huge deal for whoever the rookie quarterback ends up being. They signed offensive tackle Cornelius Lucas, Nick Allegretti. They signed centers, both Tyler Biadasz and Michael Dieter. They don't have a ton of holes. Guys, the Commanders are a team that didn't have a lot of holes to have to fill. It's just, unfortunately, Ron Rivera, old coach, lost it, couldn't figure it out. Eric Bieniemy, I still think, should have been given the head coaching job. Eric Bieniemy had that offense, the number one red zone offense in the NFL. Last year was the Washington Commanders. They scored all the time down there. His red zone offense is second to none in the NFL. It's a shame he still hasn't been signed. But defensively, they knew they needed more pressure. They still have, okay, so here's what they still have. They still have their guys on defense. Okay? They got their defensive tackles. They didn't lose them. So they still got their big two stalwart defensive tackles. They no longer have Montez Sweat. They no longer have Chase Young. So what do? They go out and they sign Dorrance Armstrong, 3-year deal worth up to $45 million. They signed Cleveland Farrell to a 1-year deal. They signed Dante Fowler Jr. They signed Efe Obada. Now, what does this mean? Simple. It simply means they don't need an edge in the draft. If they draft one, it could be in like the 6th round. But they don't need an edge in the draft. They signed 4 edge rushers. That's not going to be where their focus is. They signed the former Panther linebacker Frankie Luvu, big signing for them. 3-year, $36 million deal. They now have a solid linebacking core because right next to him is going to be Bobby Wagner on a 1-year deal. Then they got Mykal Walker on a 1-year deal. They signed corners Michael Davis, James Pierce. Then they got the safety from the Patriots, Jeremy Chin. I love this signing. Love that signing for them. Huge deal. Then they signed kicker Brandon McManus. Joey Sly kind of failed them a couple times last year. They upgraded at the kicker spot. And then they signed Tyler Oates, the long snapper, to a 3-year deal. So there you go, guys. The East. AFC and NFC East. Who they signed. And what do you know? Right there, we're almost to 40 minutes. I figured it was going to end up happening. I knew if I tried to do 4 divisions, try to just do AFC, NFC, it was not going to work. All right, well, then let's wrap this up with final thoughts. Just on the East. What I think you see very clearly is the Cowboys got strapped. The loser in the NFC East will do this. For each division, we'll pick a losing team and a winning team. The losing team in the NFC East is very clearly the Dallas Cowboys. They strapped themselves. Jerry Jones is not a good businessman when it comes to GM. He really hurt the team, and it's going to rear its ugly head very quickly. So that's the losing team in the NFC East. The winning team, flat out the Commanders. Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, Jeremy Chin, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner. I mean, good Lord. What a beautiful job Adam Peters has done in his first offseason as general manager for the Washington Commanders. Beautifully done. They're going to go corner, probably corner heavy. I think they have, and this has been out there a little bit, I think the idea that they trade back up into the first round to get Harmonious Mims from Georgia or Graham Barton from Duke, if he's available, I think are true. I think that will kind of solidify enough their offensive line to protect the rookie quarterback. And then I think they really go back end a little bit. They'll probably draft a receiver, but I could see them drafting 2 corners, a receiver, offensive line, maybe get a third defensive tackle to go behind, Daron Payne and them that are still sitting there. I could easily see that happening. So the Commanders easily win. Now the AFC East, honestly, if everything works out the way it's supposed to, and this is only if everything works out the way it's supposed to, okay? If everybody plays to their absolute potential, the real winner is the New York Jets. The Jets signed the most stars, Tyron Smith. They got Morgan Moses in the trade. Yeah, but you get Mike Williams. If everybody plays to their potential, the Jets potentially have a good offseason. Really, the winner, I do think, is, kind of the Patriots. They didn't make any stupid deals like they did last year. Bad money wasn't leaving. They signed some receivers to $13 million a year contracts, but didn't deserve over $7 million a year. The last time they said they were going to be spending big in free agency. They did not sign stupid contracts. They signed smart deals, kept some of their money. They've still got some of their money to roll over to next year as they're rebuilding the team. I think the Patriots did a fantastic job of rebuilding the team enough to compete. They've got draft picks. There's rumors they may trade down. If they do, great. If they don't, well, oh well. So let's just stick with what we got here. It is what it is, and it's the best that most teams will be able to do at this point. But I think the Patriots really won, not necessarily because of who they signed, but because of how they signed them. If you're going to sign teams to sign players to a contract, you want to make sure that contract fits. And that is right now what the Patriots have done, and it's not what they've done in the past. Now, the losers to me, flat out, are the Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry. Everybody that they lost, yeah, they re-signed, signed a couple guys, Brewer and them on the offensive line, but they signed nobody's on the defensive line. Kendall Fuller, we'll see what he's got left. I'm not so sure he can be the opposite corner of Jalen Ramsey. I don't know. I don't know what this team is going to be defensively. I think they've lost so much. Jerome Baker, Christian Wilkins, Xavier Howard, you're talking about 1, 2, and 3. Levels 1, 2, and 3. And they lost them. So really, I think the Dolphins are kind of the losers out in free agency. The number of signings doesn't look like it, but the reality of the people and who they signed does. So there is that. And that is going to be the East. That is the East. All right, guys. In the next podcast, we're going to go over the AFC North and the NFC North. Couple of interesting moves in both. Some teams that were quiet, some teams that were very, very active, and for different reasons all the way around. So that'll be what we look at in the next podcast. Guys, I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, the like button, and that notification bell. Guys, until next time, this has been Sports Talk with Hawk. I'm Hawk, and I'm out.